The rain was tapping lightly on my cabin's roof, a cozy sound that usually calmed me down, but not tonight. It was April 17th, 2024, and I was sitting at my kitchen table in my grandfather's old place on Clearwater Lake, Oregon, staring at a spreadsheet that was supposed to make sense for a client, but wasn't. My name's Nathan Harper, 44, freshly divorced, and scraping by as a remote data analyst for a tech firm that probably doesn't even know I exist. The cabin, inherited back in 2001, was my sanctuary tucked among ancient cedars, with the lake's gentle waves lapping against the shore. It was the kind of place where you could forget the world's noise, at least until Monica Vance decided to bring the noise herself. I heard her before I saw her. The gravel driveway crunched like it was being punished, followed by a car door slamming so hard it echoed. Then came the banging fists pounding my front door like they wanted to break it down. I opened it to find Monica, president of the Clearwater Shores Homeowners Association, standing there with a clipboard and a stack of papers that screamed trouble. She was maybe 58, with hair so perfectly styled it looked like it cost more than my monthly rent, and eyes that could burn holes through steel. "Mr. Harper," she said, skipping any small talk, "we've got serious violations of community standards that need addressing." Now, before I could say a word, she pushed past me into my living room, spreading her papers across my coffee table like she was staging a coup. "Your grandfather," she spat, "ruined lives with his meddling. Victor Grayson was a genius, and your family's lies cost honest people millions. Time for you to pay up." I stood there, stunned, trying to wrap my head around her words. My grandfather, the guy who taught me how to skip stones and built this cabin with his own hands, a liar? She was talking about some ancient history I barely remembered, but her tone made it clear this wasn't just about rules. This was personal. Monica dropped 5 citations on me, each one more ridiculous than the last. Dock maintenance issues from the 1990s, landscaping that disrupted the aesthetic harmony, feeding birds that apparently attracted undesirable wildlife, unpermitted shoreline changes, and noise complaints for my late-night typing. Total fines? $80,000, due in 48 hours, or they'd start foreclosure. My hands shook as I read the papers, not from anger, but from sheer panic. The divorce had already gutted my savings, and now this? I was drowning in paperwork designed to make me fold. Then Jake Larson showed up. Jake's a local contractor, mid-30s, the kind of guy who knows everyone and can fix anything. He knocked just as Monica was leaving, her smug smile lingering like a bad smell. "Nathan," he said, glancing at her car peeling out. "She's done this before. Same playbook buries people in fake violations, forces them to sell cheap to her shell companies. The Wilsons, the Carters, Mrs. Delaney, they all lost their homes." My stomach dropped. This wasn't about my dock or the birds. Monica wanted my lakefront property, and she was willing to destroy me to get it. Her words about my grandfather kept nagging at me. She'd mentioned Victor Grayson, a name I vaguely recalled from old family stories. Something about a 2001 land fraud case where my grandfather testified against him. I brushed it off at first, but Jake's warning made me dig deeper. The next day, I drove to the county records office in Portland, a dusty building that smelled like forgotten promises. The clerks looked like they'd been there since the internet was a rumor, but the files they pulled were a gold mine. 7 families, all lakefront, all hit with the same violations, all forced to sell at half their property's value to companies tied to Monica. Same signatures, same bank accounts, same shady agent. It was a scam so blatant it was almost art. Jake met me at his workshop later, spreading invoices across his workbench like evidence in a crime scene. "Look at this," he said, voice tight. "Mrs. Delaney paid $5,000 for dock repairs, then got cited again for the same dock. They're sabotaging fixes to create more fines. Every contractor listed traced back to Monica's address. She wasn't just inventing problems, she was selling the solutions and profiting twice." My blood boiled, but when I tried to get help, I hit walls. City Council? HOA issue, not our problem. County officials? Get a lawyer. The State Housing Board? No jurisdiction. Every door slammed shut, and Monica kept turning the screws-cut power lines, a towed car, even whispers that I was unstable spreading through town. I was at my breaking point when I remembered my grandfather's safe in the basement, locked with a warning. "Only open when the land's in real danger, Nathan." I'd always thought it was just old deeds or insurance papers, But now, with Monica's threats closing in, I punched in my grandmother's birthday and opened it. Inside was an envelope with my name and a letter that hit me like a freight train. Nathan, it read, "If you're reading this, our land's under attack." It detailed a 1930 conservation easement, CP, for 72019, filed with the Oregon State Historic Preservation Office, renewed every 25 years. My grandfather had been its guardian, working with federal agencies to protect our shoreline's cultural and ecological value. No HOA could touch it. The envelope held maps, surveys, and permits that made Monica's citations legally worthless. I could have waved those papers in her face, but I held back. Monica was too deep in her game, and I'd learned from Jake that cornered predators get reckless. I needed her to overplay her hand. So I contacted the state attorney general's anti-corruption hotline, a long shot I found on a government site that looked like it hadn't been updated since dial-up. After weeks of compiling evidence, Jake's invoices, my records, victim statements, I sent a package that could have doubled as a novel. 6 weeks of silence followed, with Monica piling on more fines and even a fake police report claiming I was harassing her. My neighbors stopped talking to me, and the grocery clerk who used to chat about fishing now avoided my eyes. I was isolated, but I wasn't alone. On a rainy Tuesday, May 28, 2024, my phone rang. "Mr. Harper, this is Attorney General Michael Reynolds. We need to meet about your evidence." My knees buckled. The state's top prosecutor wanted to see me. When I walked into his Portland office, it was like stepping into a legal fortress: marble floors, walls of law books, and Reynolds, a sharp 55-year-old who looked like he'd taken down mob bosses for breakfast. "Your case," he said, spreading my files across a conference table, "fits a pattern we've been tracking for 2 years: municipal corruption, HOA fraud, property theft." Monica Vance was Victor Grayson's protege. Your grandfather's testimony in 2001 tanked her career when it exposed her shady deals. She's been waiting for revenge. Reynolds showed me a 2001 headline: "Land fraud ring busted, Grayson jailed." My grandfather's name was listed as a key witness. He'd helped convict Grayson for a $30 million scheme involving protected lands. Monica had lost everything: her job, her reputation, and now she was after my land for profit and payback. Reynolds' team was building a case, and my evidence was the missing piece. The next day, Monica's car was parked across the street, her eyes locked on my cabin like a hawk. She approached with a fake smile. "Nathan, let's settle this. Sell me the property, and I'll drop the violations. Generous terms." Her voice was desperate, but her threat was clear. "You don't know who you're messing with," she hissed when I refused. "Your grandfather thought he was clever, but I've learned how to deal with people like you." That night, I readied my trap. Reynolds planned a site visit for Wednesday, June 5th. At 2 p.m., Jake tipped me off that Monica was hiring out-of-state enforcement contractors for a big move the same day, talking about federal action to scare me off. I organized every piece of evidence: Jake's documents, my grandfather's easement, victim statements, into a case file that could bury her. At midnight, Mrs. Delaney, a 77-year-old neighbor, called, whispering about a van watching my cabin. The police wouldn't act, but I wasn't scared anymore. I had the law on my side. Wednesday dawned gray and tense. Reynolds arrived at noon with 2 investigators, high-tech cameras, and a comm that said he'd done this before. "If she shows up, we'll catch her red-handed," he said. At 1:45, Jake called, frantic. "3 vehicles just turned onto your road. Monica's leading, with security and a cameraman. She's got fake court orders." My heart raced, but I stayed calm, sitting at my kitchen table as Reynolds' team set up. At 2:52 p.m., my door exploded inward. Monica stormed in, flanked by 3 goons in lakefront security polos, waving papers she claimed were federal orders. "This property is under seizure for illegal land use," she bellowed. "Vacate now, or we'll remove you." Her eyes were wild, her voice cracking with desperation. Then she saw Reynolds, his badge gleaming, cameras rolling. Her face froze, like she'd walked into her own funeral. "Wrong address," she stammered, backing away, but it was too late. Her team was inside, her cameraman filming, her fake orders in plain sight. "Ms. Vance," Reynolds said, voice like steel, "I'm Attorney General Michael Reynolds. You've just committed criminal trespass on protected land, used counterfeit documents, and threatened state officials. "Stay where you are." Monica lost it, screaming about city council approval and how no federal protection applies. Her goons hesitated, sensing the trap, but she doubled down, ordering them to remove him by any means necessary. Every word was recorded, every lie a new charge. Chaos erupted. Monica ranted about conspiracies, blaming my grandfather for her downfall. Her team tried to bolt, stammering excuses, while the cameraman's footage became evidence against her. By 3:20, she was in cuffs, still yelling as state police hauled her away. Her fake orders, printed on cheap letterhead, were seized, along with her entire paper trail. Within hours, search warrants hit Monica's home, her shell companies, and her husband's office. Daniel Vance, a city councilman, threw her under the bus at a press conference, announcing their divorce and his full cooperation with the state. The HOA board turned on her, opening their books and apologizing to victims. 7 families came forward with more evidence: voicemails, emails, threats burying her deeper. Monica's jail calls, begging victims to recant for cash, added witness tampering to her rap sheet. 3 months later, I sat in a federal courtroom watching Monica, in an orange jumpsuit, face justice. The judge, unmoved by her lawyer's pleas of regrettable choices, sentenced her to 7 years in prison, 12 years probation, permanent disbarment, and full restitution. Her shell companies were liquidated, returning millions to victims. The lakefront gained permanent historic status, boosting property values and drawing ecotourism. I was named a preservation advocate, speaking at conferences and helping others fight similar scams. My cabin became a state historic site, hosting school groups and tribal programs. Monica's downfall was a slow-motion disaster, her empire crumbling as accomplices flipped and victims reclaimed their lives. Her mentor, Grayson, was arrested again in Idaho, my grandfather's testimony still haunting him. The community healed, neighbors apologized, and the lakefront thrived, protected forever by laws Monica couldn't touch. Sitting on my deck now, coffee in hand, I think about my grandfather's quiet strength. Justice isn't always loud. It's built on stubborn documentation and people who refuse to break. Monica thought she could rewrite history, but some legacies are untouchable. What's the most outrageous HOA story you've ever heard? Have you faced a bully like Monica who underestimated you? Drop your thoughts below. Hit that like button if this story fired you up, and subscribe for more tales of justice that hit hard.